I'd like to call to order the Town of Londonderry Zoning Board of Adjustment for February 16th, 2022. I welcome everyone here. Before we start, I'm going to be going over the meeting procedures. First, the clerk will read the case into the record. Secondly, the applicant will make their presentation. Then the board addresses the applicant with any questions or comments. Those in favor of the request are given the opportunity to address the board. Those that are opposed or having questions regarding the request are given the opportunity to address the board. The applicant is given the opportunity to rebut any opposition. The opposition is given the opportunity for rebuttal. The board addresses the applicant with any additional comments or questions. Then after that has been completed, the public hearing portion regarding the case will be closed, at which time the board enters into deliberation and votes on the request or continues the case to a future date. Those who wish to speak must approach the board and use one of the microphones provided, which will be here off to the side. Please state your name and your address for the record. All conversation will be directed through the board to ensure a single line of communication. We ask that you speak directly to us with any questions or concern, and then we will then address the applicant. The public is asked to please turn off all of your cell phones or at least turn them to vibrate during this meeting. For notification of the decision, all interested parties may stay for the deliberations, which commence at the closing of the public hearing for each individual case. Or you can be notified through mail, and the applicant and the representative will be notified through the mail, or the decisions are posted at the town website within 48 hours of the meeting. So before we begin, we'd like to go through and have everybody introduce themselves. Nick, will you start us off tonight?
Yep, my name is Nick Codner. I'm the building inspector and the zoning administrator.
My name is Laura Gandia. I'm the associate planner.
My name is Irene Macarelli. I'm an alternate member.
My name is David Armstrong. I'm also an alternate member.
Brendan O'Brien, full member.
Jackie Bernard, full member.
Suzanne Brunel, full member.
Mitch Feig, full member.
Beth Morrison, recording secretary.
We can't forget you. You're part of our team. So the first order of the evening, we will go through the draft minutes for approval from the January 19th, 2022. There's a typograph on our,
And we have the December minutes too that are not on there, but we postponed them because we didn't have enough people.
okay, December meeting was the 15th, correct?
Believe so.
Okay. So the first one we will vote on will be for the meeting for December 15th, 2021, minutes of the meeting. And do I have,
So I think it has to be Mitch, Irene, and David,
Yeah,
because they were the
'cause
three that were here.
there were, okay. So,
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes from the December 15th, 2021 meeting.
do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes for December 15th have passed. The minutes of the meeting for January 19th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 19th, 2022 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the January 19th minutes have been passed. Do we have any report by the town council liaison this evening? And we do not. Laura, regional impact determinations?
We have one for your consideration. It is case number 216-2022-1, appeal of the zoning administrative chief building inspector's administrative decision determinations dated November 23rd, 2021 regarding necessary site improvements and approvals pursuant to LZO sections 5.21.a, 4.3, 4.3.2.a through D, and 4.33, 6 Dickey Street, map 10, lot 109, zone C2, Leon and Tamara Lamps, owners and applicants. Staff recommends that the board find that this application is not of regional impact as it does not meet any of the considerations set forth by the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
Do I have a motion for the regional impact?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the regional impact determination.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll go into our public hearing of the cases for this evening. Brandon, would you?
Sure. Case number 1117-2021-3, a request for two variances from LZO 4.2.2.2.b to eliminate the use requirement. At least 75% of single and family and two-family dwellings shall be restricted housing for older persons in the multifamily residential R3 zone. And 2, LZO 4.2.2.3.b.1.b to allow 55 residential three-bedroom units where only 35 are permitted. 22 Young Road, map 6, lot 58-2, zoned R3, zoned R3. Edgar L. Pitts and Winifred L. Pitts, revocable trust owner, and Cedar Crest Development LLC applicant, which was continued from the January 19th, 2022 meeting.
And who will be presenting?
Madam Chair, I did receive a request for continuance for that case and the same case, but 2021-4. As the board's aware, they've been working with staff and they requested a continuance for, to work with the butters. So they're still in the process of working with staff. I can't comment on the status of the butters and what they've done with them, but they have asked to continue this case to the March meeting, the March 16th meeting, so that they continue to work with staff.
Okay, and that's March 16th is?
March 16th,
Okay.
yeah.
Do I have a motion for a continuance till March 16th on both cases?
I'd like to make a motion in case number 1117-2021-3 and case number 1117-2021-4 to grant the request for a continuance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Case number 12-15-2021-8, a request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.b.1 to allow a lot with 100.58 feet of frontage where 150 feet are required. 8 Wiley Hill Road, map 5, lot 28, zoned AR1, Belize Real Estate Holding LLC, owner and applicant, continued from the January 19th, 2022 meeting.
Before we continue, I'd like to appoint one of the alternates so that we have a full member board this evening. Irene, did I appoint you last time?
I would need to recuse myself from this Wiley Hill Road.
Okay, all right. So David, you'll be a voting member this evening, okay? Thank you, Irene. And who will be presenting for the
Yeah, we have a-
case?
Madam Chair, I have a request for continuance on this case as well. As you may recall, last time they needed to submit a site distance profile for John Chartier's review. They have submitted that, but John and the engineer are still working over some of the details for that, so they asked that the case be continued to the March hearing as well, March 16th.
Okay. Do I have a motion for continuance?
I'd like to make a motion to grant the request for a continuance in case number 12-15-2021-8.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Case number 216-2022-1, appeal of a zoning administrator / chief building inspector Nick Codner's administrative decisions as determinations dated November 23rd, 2021, regarding necessary site improvements and approvals pursuant to LZO sections 5.21A, 4.3, 4.3.2.a/d, and 4.33, 6 Dickey Street, map 10, lot 109, zone C2, Leon and Tamara Lampus, owners and applicants.
And who will be presenting?
Brenda Keith from the Boone Law Firm, and
Yes, please.
thank you. And my clients would like to speak, especially if you have any questions.
Yeah, you're fact finding.
I'll go ahead and, when you're ready.
Go ahead.
and present, but if there's any questions on factual basis, please feel free to ask. In February of 2015, Mr. and Mrs. Lampus purchased 6 Dickey Street after first inquiring of then building inspector Richard Candor, who indicated they could operate a retail or wholesale auto business. The owners went on to invest more than $20,000 into their business. And in 2017, after investing for engineering plans and so forth to convert it from wholesale, which they were licensed through the state of New Hampshire from 2015 on, they wanted to apply for retail business instead of a wholesale business because, as Mr. Candor, and I know that this is a little confusing because Richard Candor was the inspector, Nick Codner,
Isn't it Canuel?
Canuel.
Canuel?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's an interesting name to have a building inspector with a candor last name, sorry.
okay. I think I'll say Richard.
There you go.
Thank you. So Richard had indicated that they were all set to operate a wholesale business, but not all set to operate a retail business. They went forward, got their license from the state of New Hampshire, and continued to operate as a wholesale business. And then in 2017, they investigated whether they could convert to a retail business. There seemed to be some roadblocks, so they just continued on with their wholesale business. And they rented a site over in Derry for their retail business. In February of 2021, they decided once again to go before the planning board for a conceptual plan on converting from their existing wholesale operation to a retail operation. But again, it became clear that there would be too many regulations that they would have difficulty meeting if they swapped over to a retail business. So they decided not to move forward and asked the planning board for approvals for retail business. However, in the fall of 2021, the new building inspector, Mr. Codner, Nick, stopped by their place of business at 6 Dickey and indicated that the town had received some complaints that they were operating an retail business instead of wholesale. And although Tamira and Leon indicated that, no, it's just a wholesale business, what Mr. Codner indicated at that point was, well, put up a sign that you're wholesale only and it's not open to the public. So they immediately complied. Once again, wholesale was fine, it appeared, as opposed to retail. However, a month later, Mr. Codner returned with the code enforcement person, Norma Dietrich, I believe is her name, and they indicated that they had to either rezone or submit for site plan review. So this was the first time that they understood that, or the town was indicating to them that they couldn't operate as a wholesale or retail auto business without getting additional approvals. So they got the letter from the town. By the way, I am not sure we included the November 23rd administrative ruling in the packet. I made copies in case you need that.
That's in the packet.
It's in the packet. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. So, these folks have relied on the town's position since 2015 that they could operate a wholesale business, but not a retail business. The case law protects for property owners from the town changing a position relative to zoning or regulation. And this is a municipal estoppel case. And the case law supports that there's certain elements of estoppel, and that's the Erosian Oil versus City of Portsmouth case, which I cited in our appeal document. And the elements of estoppel include a false representation or concealment of material facts made with knowledge of those facts. In this case, town officials told Tammy and Leo that they could operate as a wholesale business and that they could apply for a retail business later. That was the first position. However, the current building inspector, Mr. Codner, specifically said, 6 years later, I might add, that what the prior inspector, Richard, had indicated did not matter to him. He was not going to allow wholesale any longer. And this came despite the fact that a month earlier, in September of 2021, he had come by and talked about the complaints and said, okay, put up a sign that says wholesale only. So once again, they relied on the assertions of town officials that they could operate as a wholesale business. And then, of course, a month later, in October, that's when he came over, Mr. Codner, along with Norma Dietrich, and said, no, you need all kinds of permits for, to even operate as a wholesale business. The November 23rd letter followed the following month, and that is the letter from which we appeal now. This brings me to the second and third prong of the municipal estoppel case. Mr. and Ms. Lampus had no idea that what a town official said in February of 2015 was not the truth. They relied on what was told to them, that they could operate a wholesale auto business at 6 Dickey Street, and that they've done that ever since. Indeed, as I mentioned, as late as September, October of last year, they were still complying with requests for signage and so forth, making it clear that it was only wholesale and not a retail business. So once again, relying on those assertions, on those statements, they spent more money. And that's part of the estoppel prong, reliance to their detriment, and that is what happened. They reasonably relied on each of the representations made over the last 6 years to operate their business to their injury if relief isn't granted now, if the town is actually going to put them out of business. I might add that surprisingly, the zone, the C2 zone for 6 Dickey Street, does not allow residential, even though, with the exception of Dairy Pizza, it's surrounded by residents. And if the town is looking at shutting them down, then they can't even sell what was a residential property as a residential property. And I think that that gives the town even more of a difficult situation, because if they can't do anything with their property, then I think we're looking at a taking, and we don't want to go there. We don't want to get into that. So we respectfully ask the ZBA to overrule the administrative ruling of November 23rd and rule instead that Mr. and Mrs. Lampus have all approvals necessary to continue to operate their auto wholesale business. Thank you.
Does anybody from the board have any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, how long have you been operating a wholesale business there?
Since 2015.
And what type of business is it?
It's a wholesale auto sales.
So you sell auto wholesale out of
So
there?
all dealer to
Dealers?
dealer.
Dealer to dealer.
And if I could address the board, so
Please
what's,
state your name for the record.
sure, I am Tamara Lampus. I live at 36 Lawrence Road in Derry, New Hampshire. So when we purchased the property, it's in a C2 zone, which is zoned for sales of vehicle sales. Now, I understand that there are certain, we didn't know it at the time, but there were certain criteria that you had to meet at to do retail. And the inspector said to us, do wholesale and we'll work on the retail. And that's what we did. We spent a lot of money, we spent a lot of time. We approached the town a few times trying to work out something with them that was fair to all of us. So when we had that meeting in February, the conceptual meeting with the planning board, it was kind of, for us, it was a last-ditch effort, like, is this feasible? Because we had been down this road before, and we have created a great relationship with our neighbors. It's a quiet neighborhood, there's all houses there. We don't conduct any business after, 5 o'clock. We're respectful. We realize the things that we would have to do to adhere to a retail license would be very disruptive to the neighborhood. It would be disruptive to the lot, and it would change the whole dynamics of the neighborhood. So we were happy to do the wholesale. When we decided to go with the retail, of course, that was an additional expense for us, because now we're not balancing one business, but now we have to balance a second one. And we've been doing that. And so to be told, by a new inspector, no disrespect, to be told, you can't do anything here was, especially in the times right now with the automobile, I'm sure you guys have read about what the automobile business is like right now. It's difficult enough. We have COVID, and then adding on this strain to us. We're a family-owned business. Our boys work with us. We didn't anticipate that, and it really felt like, being constrained in many ways. And so since we started with this in November, we've had to curb back our wholesale business because we didn't want to disrupt things with the town. We filed an appeal, and still in late January, the 28th, received another threatening letter. And I feel like the town is just not, we're a small business. We would hope that you'd be helping small businesses, because we're already suffering and we're drowning in the big businesses around us. And it just felt like nobody in that town hall cared or understood or tried to explain to us why they were doing what they were doing. And, very difficult.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
So when you first met with Richard and he said to you, you're okay doing a wholesale business here, do you have anything in writing from that? That was a conversation you had?
So in order to get a retail or a wholesale license, you have to have the signature from the state, and that state also has to get a signature from the town. So in 2015, the building inspector signed off for us, and then again in 2017, and then again in 2019, and we're up for renewal again, every 2 years.
We're going to have to get that to you. I didn't realize we had those, sorry.
It's okay.
I don't have those in my file.
Okay. So I'm not sure when you're talking about the form, what,
The state will not issue you a dealer plate or an,
I understand that, but the difference between what the state requirements are and what a town requirement are, it's an and, not an or. So I'm just trying to figure out if you're laying the groundwork that you're relying on representations of the prior building inspector, I need to know what he gave you to lead you to that reliance, why you decided that was
That's
sufficient.
okay.
Because the burden is not on the town to make sure you comply with things. It's your responsibility to know what those rules are. And, had you gotten counsel earlier, I bet she would have told you. So I'm just trying to figure out the facts here.
So if I understand this correctly, the state license has an application where Richard signed off?
correct.
I'd ask for some time to supplement the record with that.
Everybody okay with that?
I think we need it.
Yeah.
We definitely need it. Are you in
Yeah,
agreement,
'cause that
Mitch?
would clear up a lot of things.
A lot of continuances today.
Yeah. Do you want a continuance so that you have all your necessary forms for this?
It would be wonderful if you hear from abutters, if there are any here, and if we could supplement the record at the conclusion of the hearing.
We have the state comes and inspects, and
The record would be Richard signing off before we even got the license.
We need to
from the state.
see that form, because that's not available to us. We don't.
but the town would, doesn't the town keep copies of what they approve and they disapprove?
Well, have you done a Freedom of Information Act request about that?
No.
No.
But you get copies of the document that he would have signed?
The state got the copies.
When they,
There's a little
sw-
confusion here.
Yeah,
Well, when-
exactly.
My apologies.
That's okay.
We look for these forms or this information so that we can properly assess. We don't want to miss anything. That's why we're asking
We
for it,
wouldn't be
because
able to operate as a wholesale business if we hadn't signed off.
But that's
Okay.
that's part of the facts, and because you're here before us tonight, we need to have that in our packet so that we can properly rule on what's going on here. To hear from everybody without some of that critical paperwork, do you really want to?
It could also be a different board next month. It could be
Yeah,
different
we
people.
can't even, because, okay, so this is another thing, because you probably have never been before the ZBA. We're all volunteers, so next month, if some of us are not here, you may not have 5 people that would be here to vote. You need 3 positive votes in order to pass. If there's only 3 of us here, only 4 of us, you have to get 3 votes in order to pass. You have the option to continue to the following month, and then see if we have a full board. This evening, we have a full board.
Plus,
Just-
if we hear, your abutters, and then the person that, we got a couple other members are here that didn't hear the abutters, then they can't kind of use that information.
it's not included in the minutes? You guys don't review that stuff before you go to your next meeting?
But the minutes aren't going to have every word that was said, or necessarily if the person has questions and the person's not here to ask. So if the board member has questions and the person's speaking and the person's not here to ask, they can't have those questions answered.
So,
The bottom line is that we've been operating with somebody signing off for us.
but we need that paperwork.
No, well,
Laura, do you have some input?
Yeah, I think instead of going back and forth, if the board feels that that's necessary information and the board does not want to continue, then the board can continue it. So that's,
Yeah.
up for the board. If that's a piece that you think that you can't do without, then
Yeah.
if you think that's the most prudent way to go, then I would say the board can do that on its own initiative.
Yeah. So, in order for, do we want that paperwork before we even continue to hear this case?
Yes.
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 I would say
Okay.
yes.
So, we'd like to have that paperwork.
I just wonder how we would have access to that
Oh, we
paperwork.
can get it.
Okay.
Who just said that?
No, it's gotta exist.
It does. It's just something that doesn't pass by us. We're either approved or
So
we're
do I have a
not.
motion for continuance?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to continue case number 2/16/2021-1 to the March 16th, 2021, 2022 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So the ayes have it. So
Thank you.
You're continued to next
Thank
month.
Thank you very
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Communications, do we have any other miscellaneous communications that we need to go over this
We
evening?
do have election of officers that we postponed last time, and I think we're waiting for Mitch to get sworn in, just in case he wanted to.
I think I told you, Mike.
You did?
Lack thereof.
So we do need to act on those, even if nobody wants to be chair. If people want to take those other 2 positions of vice chair and clerk, we can have those motions made now, and we can just continue without a chair, but an acting chair based on the attendance of each meeting.
So, because it was only Neil's position.
No, every year we have to vote for all 3, so
All
chair,
3?
vice chair, and clerk. So currently, you are the vice chair, Brendan's the clerk, and Neil obviously was the chair. So now, all 3 of those positions are up for grabs to whomever we want.
Okay. So, I have too much workload that I'm going to decline chair. So if someone would like to be chair.
Bill.
Phil. Again, I would accept it, but I am frequently having to recuse myself, so it doesn't make sense for me to act in that capacity.
I mean,
But
I have
I
a
will
new,
step in as vice chair if.
I have a new
must.
job at work, and I'm having a second baby in August, so I'm not gonna be around as much. Thank you. Thank you.
Gosh, that's great news.
Better than being chair.
Yeah, that's better news.
Yeah.
Do you still want to stay as clerk, at least? for
Will
the-
you do
Yes, I'll
clerk?
stay as
Okay.
clerk, yeah.
All right. So I'll act as temporary chair?
Well, whoever the vice chair is.
Yeah.
Once we have the election, whoever the vice chair is, nobody steps up as chair. The vice chair, by default, acts as the chair
Okay.
of the meeting.
All right.
You're stuck.
So vice chair, okay it is.
We'll think about it. How's that? If Bill ever shows up, we can convince him.
It's a better
Yeah.
idea.
And if I can't make it, could Suzanne act as vice chair if she was here?
Usually we would default,
The
the
clerk?
kind of pull Brendan and then appoint somebody as clerk.
Okay,
That's what
all
we do.
right.
I've been clerk a few times.
Okay, all right.
That's a few, I think,
So
right?
if you
Suzanne?
guys kind of figure out who's gonna put the hat, the hand in the thing for that. So I think what I'm gathering is Brendan said he'll be clerk,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do vice chair.
vice chair, and no takers for chair.
Sounds like the plan.
Okay, so then somebody can make a motion for those two positions. and then
Okay,
second
so
and
do I
then-
have a motion for chair? Excuse me, vice chair.
I mean, do we have a motion to appoint you vice chair?
Yeah.
All right, so moved.
Do I have a
Seconded.
second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Okay, the ayes have it. So Jackie Bernard is vice chair. Clerk, do I have a motion for Brandon to be clerk?
Brendan, but yes.
Brendan,
So moved.
a second? Great, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, you are now clerk
Again.
again. And,
So we will have a busy caseload next month, because we just continued all of these, and then we
All
have 4
these.
additional ones, so.
How many additional?
4.
How many
it's the same
carryover?
date, the same date in March?
For farm part, 8 altogether.
yeah, March.
But 8 cases, but within each
16th,
case, there's
or
multiple
Yeah, I think
variances,
March,
so.
when we have 28 February is the same.
Suzanne's gonna be on. All right, well, no other business then? Do I have a motion to
I'd like to make a
adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.